Yo, what up?
Um,
I'm Chuck, and I'm an LA Lakers fan.
Who are these people? Friends of yours, huh? Now, this really pisses me off to no end. Come on, stick around.
and I'm Ronnie J, and I'm a Clippers fan.
Yeah, I hope your ass pissed a bed with that weak ass bladder.
Yeah, well, if I do, and then I put the sheets on you. How you like that?
And together we are LA Divided.
Divided. Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn has been the center of attention for all of this season for many reasons, except for being at the top of the East. Main storylines were the play of Kyrie Irving due to COVID restrictions and the trade of Ben Simmons. COVID restrictions are currently lifted, facing a play-in. Will Brooklyn be a threat in the East, or will they continue to be the championship team on paper?
On the scoop, but the Nets control it. They trail by 9. We're going to hit the 2-minute mark. Oh, no. Oh, yes! Kevin Durant is in the lab.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to LA Divided NBA United. I'm your host, Goodluck Chuck, back with one and only Mr. Ronnie J. What's up with you?
Yo, what's good? What's popping?
Oh, it ain't too much, man. Just back to talking hoops, and it's been a soap opera. I mean, from day one to about literally 72, 73 games into the season. We've pretty much painted a picture of the season. It's been a wild one, like when you just look at all of the different storylines that started at the beginning of the season and where we are today. And so what's your opinion or your take on, just all the events that we've seen thus far?
Days of our lives, like you said, a soap opera. We've been doing this now a couple of weeks, and some of our predictions have been spot on, and teams have even improved from after some of the reviews that we did on them, or our takes, I should say. But yeah, man, like Brooklyn Nets. We spoke on them once before. They were at the midst of a lot of trade talks. The trades were made. Kyrie, his play was going to be questionable, and now here we are. The COVID restrictions are fully lifted, and he will be playing home games. So that's something definitely to look into, because I know that was one of the biggest topics that was weighing, all season long. And, we kind of had an idea that things was going to loosen up right before the playoffs start. And here we are. So before we dig into that, like what are your thoughts on as far as his play, and the restrictions being lifted? But it's only US, right? Not is it still the lift haven't been in Canada, right?
He still can't play in Canada.
Okay.
He still can't play in Canada currently. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But honestly, my thoughts on the Brooklyn Nets, first and foremost, them being 40 and 36 on the season, they're currently in that 8th slot, and they're fighting to stay there. There's a couple of teams when we're looking at Charlotte and we're looking at the Atlanta Hawks that are still within striking distance, but Brooklyn, also has an opportunity to jump up to 6. I know you were going to talk about that in a little bit as well. And so, when the season first started, I expected Brooklyn to be a team that was fighting for 1 or 2 in the East. So
right.
The fact that they're down here, it just makes for a better first round playoff series, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everybody would agree. It's because when you look at the teams that can potentially be 1, 2, 3, they're gonna be playing the lesser teams most of the time. Is not that good of a, like a struggling team like the Charlotte, Atlanta, Cleveland, even Chicago, to a lesser degree, with due to the current struggles and injuries that the team is facing right now. You weren't really gonna get a good first round all the way across the board. Now the way how things are shaping up, we are more than likely going to get that. And yeah, as you just touched on, as I was going to mention, it's possible that they even move up to a potential 6. If they get to that 6, the way things are shaping up right now, they were facing a team that we just recently discussed with the Boston Celtics, and we already know where that's going to go. But I don't even feel the need to really dive deep in on that because we already touched up on it. But what do you prediction, like, as far as looking at the games ahead, like, do you think they can make it to that spot?
I mean, yeah, there's a possibility they can, but see, here's my situation with Brooklyn, and you mentioned the Kyrie, conversation about him being able to play home games. I think all of these games he should be able to play, if I'm not mistaken, down the stretch. I'll have to really look at it, but when it comes to the Nets, they got remaining games against the Bucks, the Rockets, Cavs, Knicks, Hawks, and Pacers. Yeah, so Kyrie should be able to play in all of those games, barring injury.
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they can potentially, run the table and easily jump up. But my thing with Kyrie, and this is what I say, even if they would have been healthy and whole the whole season, they're going to have an amazing offense. Their offense is going to be, something where teams that play against them, they're going to have to keep scoring because these guys are going to make tough buckets. But neither Kyrie nor KD can guard worth a lick. They're just not very good one-on-one. And it's funny because, one of the narratives that went out when James Harden was traded was that Kyrie was locking down James Harden in practices. And, and that kind of went out there. And when I think about it, and I say, when Kyrie does apply himself, yeah, he can be a heck of a defensive player. Same thing with KD. But they wouldn't be the amazing offensive players they were if they locked down on both ends. This is where people have to understand your team has to be engaged and your team has to be prepared, for those types of moments, because at the end of the day, on the offensive end, Kyrie's going to get his 20 to 25 shots up. KD's going to get his 20 to 25 shots up. And, that leaves you with about, if you're a team that averages about 80 possessions, then that only leaves the rest of the team to shoot 40 shots. You know what I'm saying? And in a playoff game, those shots even come harder and harder to come by. And so now the Seth Currys of the world, you have to sit in the corner while Kyrie's over there doing his Uncle Drew thing, right? For 3.5 quarters. And then finally at the end of the game, they start doubling Kyrie and you get a shot, but you've been cold all game. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where, to me, Brooklyn is always going to run into those issues of being a team that can really, truly make it out of this situation that they put themselves in terms of being at the bottom of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned it, practice. We talking about practice. So with the whole, I remember those headlines, and they were talking that trash as far as I mean, it was an upcoming matchup, so of course those kind of stories was going to leak out. But I recently heard, as far as Brooklyn's defensive ranking, they're like 25th. So they not guard nobody. They just definitely gonna outscore you, and I mean they definitely have the manpower to outscore you, just with their 2 stars right ahead. And we haven't even got to the point of Ben Simmons and what he'll be able to bring to the table as far as facilitating. And I'm going to tell you, with Ben Simmons, all he has to do is come in, play defense, facilitate the ball, and go into the paint. He don't have to shoot. He don't have to shoot a free throw. He don't have to worry about any of those things, because the numbers is going to get made up, you know what I mean, on the offensive end. If he goes to the line and misses a couple of free throws, it's really not going to matter unless it's towards the end of the game and they really need him to make those shots. But I think the coach and staff, everybody that they see this happen with him, last year's with Philly, I don't even think they will put him in a position where he's going to be holding the ball to have to even make a free throw, for a game time decision. So I don't think the pressure is going to be there. If he can play, it's only going to just add to the power that they already have offensively. Defense is going to be their problem, but Ben Simmons is known as a defensive presence, so that ranking can definitely boost and jump up, and they can be a problem on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. But that biggest question mark is when is he going to be ready, and is he going to play?
Well, and this is the beauty of them, kind of where they are, where they have to kind of battle a little bit to get to playing their best basketball. So when you're a team that has to figure it out and you've got only about, 5-6 games, these guys are pros. So they'll eventually, figure out a rhythm and how they're going to play together. Playing a play-in game, one, potentially 2 games is the situation that Brooklyn would be in if they stay in this 8 seed. That's going to help them just get their rhythm and play, tough, meaningful games. My thing is that when you get to the second round and you get to the Milwaukee's, like, let's say they went out and they get to that 6th spot and now they're playing against, you mentioned, what was that, a Miami Heat team, or was that a Boston team, right? Okay. From the get-go, that is a team that is going to stress test you on the making all of your players defenders. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to be able to match wits offensively with the likes of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's not going to be their biggest problem. Their biggest problem is going to be, how do we keep Robert Williams off the boards? How do we, stop Marcus Smart?
He's hurt. He's hurt.
Oh, he is hurt. Oh, you're right. Yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that changes that
everything.
Some things for Boston in that aspect. But even then, I mean, Tice can get in there. He's been a guy that's helped in the past. But either way, like I said, Boston has multiple guys that can hurt you. So that's where, Brooklyn's going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, but I feel that they can figure it out easier against Boston versus they can Milwaukee. I mean, we're talking about the defending champions here. We just not going to walk over the fact and think that Boston is just going to come in and potentially run them out with or without Ben Simmons. With Ben Simmons, there's a reasonable discussion, but once again, it's just kind of up in the air. Like, I don't know what, I personally haven't been hearing too much about what they're doing with him as far as his rehab. Last I heard, he was just, rehabbing the back, that he was having some issues with it and that he wasn't ready. But, this may be it's been about a week since I've heard anything. I really haven't been paying attention to him. Right now, NBA, all the storylines is being, taken over by the Will and Chris Rock situation. So we haven't been hearing too much, rumors about everything else. But the way I'm looking at the play-in right now, the way how they're looking, either if they're in a 6, 7, or 8 seed, they're looking to face either Boston. Well, I mean, it could be a combination of Boston, Chicago, maybe Milwaukee. And then I think if they get one of the 2 other teams, Boston or but I think Brooklyn will just have their number once again, just by the strength of offense. But yeah, Brooklyn would definitely be a tester out of the first round. And just as you mentioned earlier, if they do play Brooklyn, or I'm sorry, if Brooklyn plays Boston or Milwaukee, man, we're gonna have some good games, like just coming out of the gate in the first round. Like that's just gonna be crazy. And once again, it's just going to make for a good basketball season. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. And with Brooklyn, do we really even need to discuss the others? Like, they got a few other people on the team. Like, are they going to make an impact at all as far as like the Andre Drummond?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're going to make an impact, whether it be positive or negative. It's going to be at some point, they're going to have to lean on these guys. And guys like LaMarcus Aldridge, Blake Griffin, who I don't know how he's been playing lately. I haven't seen him on the floor.
He hasn't been playing lately.
Yeah, they've been using that kid Sharp, and of course Claxton, and they've got some young horses in there. I really like Cam Thomas. I really like his game. I like the consistency he gives them off the bench. Patty Mills, of course, all those big games for the Spurs that he played over the course of time. So, they have guys that are going to contribute and definitely be a thorn in the side come playoff time. But once again, it becomes, did Brooklyn dig themselves a deep hole? Now, there's some fraudulent teams that are coming, to fruition in terms of we are who we thought they were. And that's Chicago and that's Cleveland. You know what I'm saying?
Should we, I mean, even though they at the number 1 spot right now, do we even put Miami in there?
No, because Miami
No.
still has, with their championship coaching and pedigree, and they've got vets, and they were just there 2 years ago. They ran through the Eastern Conference and they beat a Boston team. You know what I'm saying? They beat a Milwaukee team, and so I would not count the Heat out, but the Heat are one of those teams that they feel better as the underdog. Whenever they go in as the favorites, they seem to disappoint. And that seems to be the situation when I look at how they're falling apart. They hadn't had Tyler Hero for some games. They hadn't, had Bam for an extended period of time, and working him back in. And that's what happens. And now you're working Victor Oladipo in. And so these are all guys that are expecting to get touches. They're expecting to get minutes. And, you got to find rhythm, and you've got pressure because you've got another, all potential all-star. Like Victor Oladipo was an all-star a couple of years ago. You know what I'm saying? So if Jimmy's not playing well, you can easily put him on the bench. And Jimmy is the type of guy that the way that he holds his standards in terms of what he feels about the game of basketball, he feels like he's one of the best players on the court.
Right.
And so, that's obviously we can talk about the Miami Heat another time, but, when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets, they're going to be, if they play a team like Miami, or they play a team like Chicago, which I think Chicago's too far off at this point now, to even give them an opportunity. But those are teams that are fraudulent. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be there. Same thing with Cleveland. Cleveland is running out of gas, and they're being had. And maybe it's the missing of Jared Allen, Ricky Rubio as well. These things are starting to show their face. So that's why I love the storylines of the NBA right now.
Well, I feel like this is more of a stretch and it's not likely to happen. But since we did, since we mentioned Miami, if somehow the Brooklyn Nets were to get slotted at the 8th spot and they were to face Miami, what would you think would be the outcome of that? Do you think Brooklyn takes that, or Miami?
I mean, I'd lead towards a 7-game series, and I think it could be a coin flip. I think it would be either way. I don't think because when I look at Brooklyn, I just look at those two guys, man, and I'm like, because I'm not counting Ben Simmons. Even if he comes in and he plays, he's still not going to have a big impact on swaying any of these series until we get to like the Eastern Conference Finals. At that point in time, that's when it becomes a big deal.
Gotcha. Okay, I feel you. Just had to throw that in there because, again, when you look at the seedings and you look at the rankings of what everyone is right now, it kind of throws you off because of how they have the brackets set up. But I was sitting there and I was staring at it for a minute. And I'm like, wait, it does say the 8 seed. Brooklyn is an 8 seed right now, but the play-in just kind of messes it all. Well, not messes it all up, but it throws the structure around a little bit.
Yeah, because
from the conventional.
If they win that play-in, they can move up to the 7th seed.
Yeah.
So in the 7th seed play each other, they're interchangeable. And when you look at the standings right now, that's why I said, Boston was first place overnight, and then they lost. You know what I'm saying? And then, next thing you know, Milwaukee's jumping up there. Then they lose tonight. So it's like the standings are jumbled up, and that's why all of these games, I think all of these games matter, at the end of the day, down the stretch. Every single team is going to want to at least win and go out on a high note. I don't think we're going to see, outside of Phoenix, and even Phoenix has to play Devin and Chris and all of them together because Chris missed a little bit of time. So they want to get their rhythm going into the playoffs. None of these teams are going to be able to really sit their stars and be like, all right, well, we just gonna rest them because we good for the playoffs.
Right. No, I definitely understand the boy. Now I 100% agree with you on that. And man, it's just gonna be an interesting next couple of games here, next couple of week or two full of games because once again it can get thrown around so many ways, but it's gonna be interesting to see. Like I say, I think it will be for good basketball if Brooklyn and Toronto stay away from each other. We want to see Kyrie, be able to play all the games possible. He made his choice. I understand, the unfortunate consequences if they do face each other. He won't be able to play all 7 games. But I mean, if they were to play Toronto, I don't think it would even go to a 7-game series. So I mean, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, man, I'm just looking forward to it. Like the last home stretch here. I mean, it's getting close. You see what's happening on the West. We're not going to talk about it because I know it's a disappointment, but it's getting interesting, man. It's really getting interesting. What can you say? What can you say?
I mean, it ain't much to say, Yeah. And I think, just to kind of wrap up the Brooklyn Nets in terms of these last few games that they have, I believe it's 6 games left. And I think that they can easily win 4 of those easily.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I was going to say all of the games are winnable. One or 2 might get you, but it's definitely, I mean, the one that I'm looking at mainly is I mean, it's an early game this coming Thursday. They got the Bucks, and then after that, let me see, they got the Bucks, and then they got Atlanta. So they got a winnable. They have both of those games are winnable in their eyes, but from a real standpoint, most people are going to look at Milwaukee. I think they not just going to walk in and say, yeah, we just going to let you beat us, because they still have that mentality. I know they let down a couple of games. They trying to stay strong at closing out these last few games. But then you go from there, you go to Atlanta. That should definitely be a winnable game. If for any reason they don't win that game, it's going to be a lot to talk about. But then, think
about it. They just lost the Charlotte game. You know what I'm saying? It's not out of the realm of possibility. Like when you look at some of these teams, and even when I look at the fact that Brooklyn has won, 5 of their last 8 games, the games that they lost, Dallas, young athletic guys that are going to keep coming at you, attacking you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Then that Charlotte team that's hungry and trying to play for something. And then, of course, the game that they dropped against, was that Milwaukee or?
While you looking that up, if you come across it, as we stated in previous conversations, as we mentioned in previous conversations, I am on the Charlotte bandwagon. I think they pose a greater risk over Atlanta. So once again, it just feeds into the narrative of what I was saying before. So.
You said that, and we're gonna see that. We're gonna see that. But I mean, listen, realistically, Brooklyn has an opportunity to nab that 7th spot. I think the way that Toronto is playing right now, and then the schedule that Toronto has, going forward, they're like we said, if Brooklyn wins 4 out of those 6 games, that only gives them another 44 wins on the season. Toronto's already at 43, so Toronto's going to be hard to catch. But, Cleveland, listen to what Cleveland's last few games look like here. They've got the Mavs. But they are at home. They got them tomorrow. They've got the Hawks. They're on the road. And that's off of a back-to-back. Then they should beat the Knicks. Then they got the Sixers at home. That's on the end of a back-to-back, so they'll be traveling from New York, so that could be a loss, and the Sixers will need that game. They've got the Magic, that should be a win. Then they've got to play the Nets, so they're playing the Nets right before the last season of the game, and the last season is against the Bucks. So Cleveland might drop, as far as 9th, if they're not careful.
Listen, closing out here, I'm gonna give my prediction. If you're ready for that point, I'm going to predict the Brooklyn Nets will not be in the play-in. I think they're gonna make it to the 6th seed, and they will be above that line. I believe that I'm calling a prediction now that the Brooklyn Nets will make it to the 6th spot. I think some teams will shift, and they will not be in the play-in. They will just be in the regular seeded playoffs sitting right at 6.
And you think they're going to play Boston in the first round?
the way how it's looking, I mean, I like, as you just said, like some of those teams, they are who we thought we are. I don't think Chicago is going to move up. Philly might move up to the 2 spot, but yeah.
Do you think it's possible that Chicago could drop?
Drop how far?
I mean,
to
6th or 7th.
Well, I mean, if they drop to 6th, then it's just going to put it'll potentially put Brooklyn at the 5, but then we just have more shifting, because if Chicago falls, then another team is going to move up. So I mean, it can just get slotted so many ways. It's just hard to kind of predict it. But just basing on the way how it sits right now, I'm not going to give a prediction of the first round. I'm not going to go that far, but I am just predicting as of right now, Brooklyn Nets will make it to the 6th spot, and they will not be in the play-in.
All right. Well, we'll see how it shakes out. Ronnie's prediction is out there. We'll see, what happens. Definitely going to be putting together a compilation of where Ronnie was wrong and where he was right. Don't take my my predictions to Vegas. You might be the Charles Barkley guarantee. You know what I'm saying? Your bold prediction. Now I'm gonna have to put something out there for it. But I love the boldness of that, and we'll see. I mean, a lot of these teams, especially at the bottom of the East, man, they're playing some pretty good basketball to end the season, and especially playing for their basketball lives in terms of that. But this, with that being said, you got anything else you wanna predict before we go into this next phase?
That's it.
All right. Well, look out for, some more episodes that we're putting together. We're going to be putting together a real special episode over the off season that I want to talk about now, because like I said, this is going to be 24 hours of footage. I am hyping this up right now because it is going to happen. This is the debate of all debates over the summer. Me and Ronnie are going to be having the GOAT discussion. And none other than our man, Renee Shake Ortiz, who does the Vegas Nightlife Crew podcast with me. You guys, if you watch a few of the other videos on the platform, you will see that one. So it's going to be a lot of fun putting that together, because I mean, I want to take a few days for us to do all the research we need, go back, get all the facts, because I already know who my GOAT is. I know who I think the GOAT is, the number one player. And I'm gonna tell you right now, he wears a Laker jersey, baby.
I ain't never seen MJ wearing the Lakers before, so.
Well, we'll have to see. All right. Well, with that being said, this has been LA Divided, NBA United. I'm your host, Goodluck Chuck, with my man Ronnie J, and we are.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Right now, going to be joining in just a moment. So we will listen to Kyrie at the podium, and then later on, we will have him here on set with us as well. The 6-time All-Star making his way to the podium for his first address to the media as a member of the Brooklyn Nets. And we're going to ask the first question here on ES.
And when I saw Kevin Durant clapping like that last night and everybody raving, I got tipped off, because that's exactly what Kyrie Irving wants to do.
It's been a journey that I've taken numerous steps in different directions, and I've failed and succeeded. So for me, 8 years being in the NBA, learning as much as I can from a business component, personal, leadership, just community. First and foremost, I wanted to reach out, especially when free agency started, to Brooklyn, and let them know that my interest was very high.
Because he don't love basketball. He can play. He's playing because he's spectacular at it, and he's playing because it pays well. That brother don't love it.
Being in a team environment, being an NBA basketball player, and trying to be successful at a sport that sometimes, or for the most part, spills over into my personal life. And then
I gotta admit to you, and I'm not joking about this. I'm dead serious. I'm not joking, and I certainly don't mean anything by towards anybody else but Kyrie Irving. When the whole invasion took place with Russia and Ukraine, I thought Kyrie was going to skip games because of that. I ain't love it.
I'm still not normal. So when I go outside and I see all these kids leaving a bunch of courts, I'm like, I just came here to shoot with my dad, because that's where I grew up. Is outside playing basketball, having that attitude to really prove people right that I'm the next one and meant to take over this league for the next few years.